Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. India's President Murmu invites the NDA leader Narendra Modi to form the government for a third consecutive term, oath-taking ceremony on June 9. National Democratic Alliance chooses Narendra Modi as its parliamentary committee leader. The Prime Minister describes the NDA as an unbreakable bond built on trust. India's central bank keeps the repo rate unchanged at 6.5% for the 8th time in a row. The Sensex and the Nifty settle at fresh closing highs. Polling is underway across the European Union, the bloc's 27 member states, to choose 720 lawmakers for the EU Parliament. French voters, along with 19 other nations, to cast their ballots on Sunday. World number one, Iga Swiatek, eyes a fourth Grand Slam title, will face Jasmine Paolini in the Roland Garros title clash on Saturday. The leader of the National Democratic Alliance, Narendra Modi, met President Draupadi Murmu at the Rashtrapati Bhavan and staked claim to form the NDA government at the centre. The BJP-led NDA has secured an absolute majority in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections by winning 292 seats. The BJP alone has won 240 seats. The Telugu Desam has secured 16 seats and the JDU 12. Later, the PM-designate Narendra Modi announced that he will take oath as Prime Minister for a third consecutive time on the 9th of June.
एनडीए के सभी साथियों ने मुझे फिर से एक बार इस दायित्व के लिए पसंद किया है और सभी एनडीए के साथियों ने राष्ट्रपति जी को इसकी जानकारी दी और राष्ट्रपति जी ने मुझे अभी बुलाया था और मुझे प्रधानमंत्री डेजिग्नेटेड के रूप में काम करने एक नियुक्ति दी है और मुझे शपथ समारोह के लिए और मंत्रिपरिषद के सदस्यों के सूची के लिए उन्होंने सूचित किया है। मोटे तौर पर मैंने राष्ट्रपति जी को कहा है कि हमें 9 तारीख शाम को सुविधा रहेगी।
But the President has requested the leader of the National Democratic Alliance, Narendra Modi, to indicate the date and time of the swearing-in ceremony to be held at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Also, advise her about the names of other persons to be appointed as members of the Council of Ministers and expressing powers vested in her under Article 75(1) of the Constitution of India. President Draupadi Murmu appointed Narendra Modi to the office of Prime Minister of India. Earlier, a delegation of NDA leaders called on President Murmu and handed over a letter of support. Among those who visited the President's house were BJP President JP Nadda, senior BJP leaders Amit Shah, Rajnath Singh, the JDU leader Nitish Kumar, the TDP leader Chandrababu Naidu, the Shiv Sena leader and Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde, among others. The National Democratic Alliance, which emerged victorious in India's general elections, unanimously elected Prime Minister Narendra Modi as its parliamentary committee leader, thus making him Prime Minister designate for a third consecutive term. The pre-poll alliance with the BJP as its leading member is poised to form the government with the backing of over 300 MPs, including independents and others who are supporting from outside. Here's a report of the NDA Parliamentary Committee meeting.
Celebrations erupted outside Samvidhan Sadan on June 7 after Narendra Modi was chosen as the leader of the NDA Parliamentary Committee. BJP workers danced with party flags and rejoiced to dhol beats, something Prime Minister Modi had himself referred to a short while earlier while describing India and the mother of democracy and condemning the opposition in the alliance for besmirching India's reputation globally.
मैं दुनिया में ढोल पीट रहा हूं कि हम मदर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी है और ये दुनिया में जाकर के बता रहे नहीं हमारे देश में तो डेमोक्रेसी ऐसा कुछ नहीं कि वो मोदी बैठ गया है वो एक चाय बेचने वाला यहां पहुंच कैसे गया.
The BJP-led National Democratic Alliance has won a clear majority in the recently concluded general elections, and the members of the coalition expressed their unwavering support for Prime Minister Modi to lead a third consecutive term, a historic moment and one they felt was richly deserved.
We are having leader. That leader is Narendra Modi. Now, I proudly propose the name of Sri Narendra Modi ji on behalf of Telugu Desam Party for the post of Prime Minister of this great nation.
10 साल से ये प्रधानमंत्री हैं और फिर प्रधानमंत्री होने जा रहे हैं और इन्होंने पूरे देश की सेवा की. अब पूरा भरोसा है कि जो कुछ भी बचा है अगली बार ये सब पूरा कर देंगे.
आप ही में सर वो इच्छा शक्ति है जो गांव और शहर की दूरी को मिटा सकता है. आप ही में वो इच्छा शक्ति है जो अमीर और गरीबी के फासले को पार सकता है. आप ही में वो इच्छा शक्ति है सर जिसने ये लक्ष्य रखा कि 2047 तक भारत को हम लोग विकसित देश बनाएंगे और भारत को विकसित देश बनाने की ओर आप ही हम लोगों को लेकर चल सकते हैं.
Prime Minister Modi described the NDA as an unbreakable bond built on trust.
आप मुझे फिर से एक बार ये दायित्व देते हैं. इसका मतलब है कि हम दोनों के बीच हम आपस में विश्वास का सेतु इतना मजबूत है ये अटूट रिश्ता विश्वास की मजबूत धरातल पर है और ये सबसे बड़ी पूंजी होता है.
Prime Minister Modi underscored the significance of collective efforts by all elected representatives in propelling the nation forward, emphasizing that beyond mere majority, it is unanimity that drives progress in a democracy.
मैं आज देशवासियों को यहां से विश्वास दिलाना चाहता हूं कि आपने जिस प्रकार से हमें बहुमत देकर के सरकार चलाने का सौभाग्य दिया है, ये हम सबका दायित्व है कि हम सर्वमत का निरंतर प्रयास करेंगे और देश को आगे ले जाने के लिए हम कोई कोर कसर नहीं छोड़ेंगे.
After the NDA meeting, its parliamentary committee leader and PM-elect for a third consecutive term, Prime Minister Modi called on elder statesmen of the party, Bharat Ratna L.K. Advani, Padma Vibhushan Murli Manohar Joshi and former President of India Ramnath Kovind. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Dibyendu Mandal has been following the story closely. Dibyendu joins us now. Dibyendu, so can you give us the details about the swearing-in ceremony and, other aspects about it?
Well, Mark, the swearing-in ceremony is now scheduled for the 9th of June is what we are hearing. Of course, it has now also been confirmed by the Prime Minister from outside the Rashtrapati Bhavan, where he addressed the media. He said that he has requested the Rashtrapati Bhavan for the timing of the 9th of June in the evening, and the Rashtrapati Bhavan will make the necessary arrangements for the swearing-in ceremony. Also, what is important is that this is unprecedented when this is for the third time that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be taking oath. This is unprecedented also because of the fact that this is for the first time after 1962 that a Prime Minister who has completed full term in office for two terms, which is 10 years, is now coming back to power again for the third time. This only happened during the term of Jawaharlal Nehru, and after that it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi who will be holding office as the Prime Minister of India for the third consecutive time. Also, it is important to also mention that this will be an NDA government where its ally partners, the TDP, the JDU, LJP, HAM, JDS and others will be part of this government, also including Maharashtra's NCP, Ajit Pawar faction, and Eknath Shinde's Shiv Sena. So, of course, a long meeting and discussion is currently underway as we speak at JP Nadda's residence in Motilal Nehru Marg in New Delhi. So, of course, that's a crucial meeting that is underway because that meeting is perhaps all about discussion.
So let me come in there, Dibyendu, because I wanted you to explain to our viewers what happens next, because the President has asked for the names of those also who will be sworn in along with the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. So that's important. I guess that's what's being discussed at JP Nadda's house. But also the fact that this is a coalition government, what are the expectations like from the coalition partners?
Well, Mark, it seems as of now that everything is sailing very smoothly for the BJP because, of course, of the fact that it's the single largest party with 240 parliamentarians, which has been elected this time around of the BJP. The other alliance partners, of course, 52 in number, which makes it to 292. But also, there will be much negotiations which will be going on in this particular meeting that is currently underway, given the fact that Chandrababu Naidu and Nitish Kumar has emerged as the kingmaker. And given the history of coalition politics in India, we have to understand that the kingmakers will try to pull all strings possible to ensure they get plum portfolios in the government. So, of course, they will be pressing for important portfolios within the ministry, within the government. But the BJP has made it very clear to its alliance partners that they will not part away with the top 4 ministries of the government, which also constitute the Cabinet Committee on Security, which includes the Ministry of Finance, Home, Defense and External Affairs. So these 4 ministries as of now is going to remain with the BJP. Right. But what we are also given to understand that some MOS portfolios within this 4 ministry could go to its alliance partners. Apart from that, what we are also given to understand that TDP could get 2 full cabinet berths along with the JDU and 2 MOS berths along with both the JDU and TDP are expected to get 4 ministries each. But long negotiations will take place. What we are also given to understand, the speaker's post is also being demanded by the alliance partners. But whether that will be given by the BJP to the alliance partners, it will be interesting to see. But as we were also discussing about the president asking for the names of the Council of Ministers that will be sworn in along with the Prime Minister. Of course, we'll get to know about the names who will be sworn in along with the Prime Minister only on the 9th, because tonight, through the night and tomorrow, it will be a day full of negotiations and discussions, deliberations on who could get which ministerial berth. Of course, all the parties currently are tight-lipped about it. There are no official confirmation about any portfolios being distributed to anybody. Back to you.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Dibyendu Mandal joining us from New Delhi. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky meets the military equipment industry leaders at the French Defense Ministry in Paris. The British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak apologizes for leaving D-Day commemorations early to give an interview.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. The polls are underway across the European Union, marking the beginning of what is expected to be a pivotal election, with far-right parties anticipated to secure significant gains, heightening the stakes in the continent-wide democratic exercise, which boasts over 370 million eligible voters spanning 27 member states.
The polls are underway across the European Union, marking the beginning of what is expected to be a pivotal election, with far-right parties anticipated to secure significant gains. With more than 370 million eligible voters spread across 27 member states, the stakes are high in this election. It's the 10th parliamentary election since the first direct elections back in 1979, and notably the first European Parliament election post-Brexit. The election, which runs from June 6th to June 9th, is coinciding with several other elections in various EU member states. Meanwhile, early indications suggest a surge in support for far-right parties. In the Netherlands, exit polls are indicating significant gains for Geert Wilders' anti-immigration party. Initial exit polls place his party as a close second to a coalition of left-wing parties. This marks a remarkable turnaround for Wilders, whose party failed to secure a seat in the previous EU election.
Well, I'm a very happy politician. I'm the leader of a party that is the greatest winner today. We went from 1 to 8 seats in parliament, with even a chance that we could become the biggest party and close to the Social Democrats and the Greens, who have one seat more in parliament. They have 8, we have 7. We went from 1 to 7.
While the far right in France sees this election as a crucial opportunity to undermine Macron's influence, and using this election as a platform to challenge President Emmanuel Macron's party.
Jusqu'à présent, il était inenvisageable que le Rassemblement.
This is a really spectacular rise for Rassemblement National. I mean, the fact that the Rassemblement National is leading in EU polls is not new. In the past 2 European elections, we have forgotten this, but the Rassemblement National already finished in first place. But then what's unique in this election, if the Institute's polls on voting trends are reflected in the ballots this Sunday, is that they could reach the symbolic score of 30%.
Dans lesquels il y avait une espèce de plafond de verre. Je pense notamment aux électeurs de plus de 60 ans.
On the other hand, activists have taken to the streets, blocking the entrance to the EU Commission, calling for degrowth. This adds another layer of complexity to an already intense political landscape. With Bureau Inputs, Ravindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
And DD India correspondent William Denslow now joins us from Brussels with more on this story. William, you know, the 720 lawmakers that who are being elected, how independent can they be from their own country's leadership, or are they expected to conform?
Well, it's a really interesting breakdown, Mark. When people across Europe head to the polls, they'll have the choice for about 200 parties. Now, that's not to say that every person going to vote has a list of 200 different names of potential MEPs to choose from, but if you break down every single one of the 27 countries that will have their individual choice of candidates, it'll be around 200. Then it'll be the chance for Europeans to decide which MEPs they want to see represent them here in Brussels at the European Parliament. 700 and 20 members of parliament will then have to decide what groupings they want to be a part of. At the moment here in Brussels, there are 7 of these political groups spanning from the left to the right side of the political spectrum. At the moment, the biggest of those 7 groups is the European People's Party, the EPP. They were the biggest shareholder of seats last time around. They're expected to regain that majority, but it's very unlikely that any party will get anywhere close to the 361 seats needed for an absolute majority. What that means, Mark, is that a coalition will need to be formed. Last time around, we saw a centrist coalition between the Socialist Democrats, the EPP, as well as the Renew Party. Be very interesting to see what kind of coalition breakdowns we'll see this time around. That is why all eyes will be on whether we'll see a resurgence from the far right, whether that group itself will be able to conform or whether they will remain splintered, and how this will play out in the weeks after the elections when all of these kind of political wranglings and decisions still need to be made.
Okay, so that's pretty much the procedure, but you know, the far right is projected to win in France, at least that's what our report suggests. Some pro-EU parties seem to be doing well in the Netherlands, and you said that you know, there's a lot more at stake here. What is Brussels expecting from these elections, and you know, to what extent does it give us a direction for EU policy?
Well, we've heard recently from French President Emmanuel Macron, whose party Renaissance is trailing the National Party quite substantially, according to polls in France, when it comes to these European elections. He's made a late plea 4 votes ahead of Sunday's election in France, saying that if there is a rise in the far right, not only in France but across Europe, he warns that that will lead to the next 5 years of a stalemate in Brussels. Essentially, Emmanuel Macron says that if there is a rise of the far right, that means more and more other parties who have already said that they are reluctant to work with many of these groups. That means that we could see stagnation, even more bitter conflicts in the European Parliament, making it harder for lawmakers to pass policies and to continue to speak with a more unified front. We have seen a strong rebuttal to that from National Party members in France, reacting to Emmanuel Macron's comments, stating that they are seeking to rid harmful policies, as they describe it, from the European Commission. They point to issues such as immigration, such as the Green Deal that has been passed in recent months by the European Commission. Those are central issues that are really playing out in France. Across Europe, many far-right parties are looking at some of those topics, the issue of the cost of living, saying that environmental policies are harmful to that, looking at security, as well as looking at migration. Those are a few issues that the far-right are looking to exploit ahead of these polls. But as we saw from the example in the Netherlands, many expected the left side, the Labour and the Greens, to provide disappointing election results. At least in the Netherlands, shows that they are perhaps doing stronger than expected. Analysts will be looking to see whether that extrapolates across the 27 members of the EU.
William Denslow, thanks very much. Now, the Russian President Vladimir Putin addressed the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum on Friday. Putin said that he did not see the conditions for the use of nuclear weapons as set out in Russia's nuclear doctrine, but he added that he could not rule out a change in the doctrine. Putin also spoke about the Ukraine conflict, saying that his country is ready for talks, but on the same conditions discussed first in Minsk and also then in Istanbul, and not on some made-up ones. DD India's Dasha Chernyshova now joins us from Moscow with more on these stories. Dasha, so what are the conditions then for Russia to be participating in these talks?
Well, very importantly, the Russian president said that Moscow will need to negotiate with Ukraine, but for that, Moscow will have to find with whom? Because Russia stems from the fact that Vladimir Zelensky's mandate as president of Ukraine has expired in May. So that is one of the caveats in finding the ground for the negotiations. At the same time, Moscow also maintains that Ukraine is not in a position to negotiate with Moscow at the moment because the Ukrainian allies in the West are not interested in that, and they will seek mobilization in Ukraine starting at the age of 18, and unless that is taking place, Ukraine will not be interested in the negotiations. But all in all, the Russian president said that if those negotiations do take place, they will have to be based on the arrangements that have been made in Istanbul in the spring of 2022, but also taking into account the new realities on the ground, and they are that Russia has the upper hand in this conflict. In Vladimir Putin's understanding, Russia has the upper hand. Moscow has increased the production of its military-industrial complex. Moscow has taken in Ukraine 880 square kilometers of the territories since the start of this year, so in 2024, as well as 47 different villages and towns since the start of the year. So the Russian president is saying that Moscow is steadily squeezing the Ukrainian military from the territories of Donbas. When asked if Russia will be willing to take a more radical course to mobilize more people and to finish the operation quicker, he said that what's important for Moscow is the lives of its military. That's why the tactics of squeezing the enemy, as he described the authorities in Ukraine, out from Donbas is the preferred one at the moment.
Also, Dasha, what about the nuclear option? Because President Putin was asked a question of whether he should hold a nuclear pistol to the head of the West, or over Ukraine, and he seems to have said that the doctrine could change. Is that the impression that we're getting?
Well, the Russian president is always saying that it is not Moscow that was first to start the nuclear saber rattling, suggesting that it was the lady from the UK, that is the former UK Prime Minister Liz Truss. With regards to the possibility of the use of nuclear weapons, we are repeatedly hearing from Moscow that the Western countries should not forget that Russia is the nuclear power. But at the same time, there is the nuclear doctrine, which provides for the cases of the use of nuclear weapons, and they are when Russia's national integrity and security is threatened. Obviously, the Russian president is sending a signal to the Western countries that these discussions about the use of nuclear weapons should not be even taking place, because they are fraught with potentially very serious consequences, and Moscow understands that it is a responsible nuclear power in the description of the Russian authorities. But at the same time, these messages are constantly in the media reminding the powers worldwide that Russia does have these type of weapons, and obviously Moscow reserves the right to defend itself with all means possible should the red lines be crossed. The question now is whether those lines will be crossed and how long Moscow will be willing to wait, because the conversations about the use of long-range weapons against targets inside Russia have been the most recent example of this rhetoric escalation.
Dasha Chernyshova in Moscow, thanks very much. The U.S. President Joe Biden met the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Paris on Friday and announced a fresh $225 million tranche on the sidelines of the D-Day events that are taking place there. Now, the meeting was their first face-to-face encounter since Zelensky visited Washington in December, when the two pressed Republicans to overcome their opposition to more support for Ukraine. They will meet again next week at the G7 summit in Italy as rich Western countries discuss using Russian products. Now, also Russian frozen assets. Now, following Biden's announcement, Zelensky thanked Biden for U.S. military, financial and humanitarian support.
You continue to fight in a way that is just remarkable, and we're not going to walk away from you. I apologize for those weeks of not knowing what's going to happen in terms of funding, because we had trouble getting the bill that we had to pass that had the money in it from some of our very conservative members who were holding it up. But we got it done finally, and since then, including today, I've announced 6 packages of significant funding. Today I'm also signing an additional package for $225 million to help you reconstruct the electric grid.
The Ukrainian President Zelensky met with military equipment manufacturers, in fact, on Friday at the French Defense Ministry in Paris. Earlier, Zelensky had thanked France for its support, and he said that he hoped to see French jets in the Ukrainian skies soon. A day after President Macron said that France plans to provide Mirage 2000 warplanes to Ukraine. In the ongoing election campaign in the United Kingdom, both Labour and Conservative parties, they are trying their best to convince the voters that they are the best for the country. The British Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, suffered a fresh setback when he apologised for leaving D-Day commemorations early in order to give an interview. Here's more.
Election campaigning is in full swing in the United Kingdom for the upcoming parliamentary election on July 4. The most successful political party in British history, the Conservatives, are seeking to break another record on the 4th of July by securing a 5th election win in a row. The party headed by Rishi Sunak will be defending a majority secured by Boris Johnson in 2019 and hoping to improve on it across the country. The ruling Conservatives and the opposition Labour Party have both pledged to scrap preferential tax treatment for non-domiciled residents. Labour leader Keir Starmer has additional plans to tax the wealthy, and polls show his party more than 20 points ahead. Starmer, who's 61 years old, completed his education from the University of Leeds and the University of Oxford. Since 2015, Holborn and St Pancras has been his parliamentary constituency. In 2015, he became the MP from Holborn and St Pancras in North London. He served in former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn's frontbench team as his shadow Brexit secretary. Conservative Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is the UK's first British Indian Prime Minister. He studied at Oxford University and later did an MBA from Stanford University in California. He became Chief Secretary to the Treasury in 2019. In October 2022, he became Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. In his upcoming election, he has pledged to fight with multiple challenges like halving inflation, growing the economy, reducing debt, cutting NHS waiting times, and stopping small boat crossings. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is fighting to keep his job and to continue in the Parliament. But on Friday, Prime Minister Sunak suffered a fresh setback when he apologised for leaving D-Day commemorations early in order to give an interview. However, he said the decision to leave D-Day events early should not be used for political gain.
The itinerary for these events was set weeks ago, before the start of the general election campaign, and having participated in all the British events with British veterans, I returned home before the International Leaders event later in the day. On reflection, that was a mistake and I apologise. I think it's important though, given the enormity of the sacrifice made, that we don't politicise this. The focus should rightly be on the veterans who gave so much. I had the honour and privilege of speaking to many of them.
This year, in the United Kingdom, tax has dominated the election debate. PM Sunak repeatedly said Labour would increase taxes by £2,000 per family, a claim Labour has branded a lie. All 650 seats in the House of Commons are up for grabs on July 4. The leader of the party that can command a majority either alone or in coalition will become Prime Minister. Aman Kumar Himangshu's report, DD India.
So still to come here on DD India NewsHour. We'll be discussing with our guest about India's government formation on June 9. And India's central bank, the RBI, has kept the repo rate unchanged at 6.5%.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. And now we are joined by Shekhar Iyer, senior journalist, senior political affairs commentator. Mr. Iyer, how clear was the message from the NDA meeting that, the third consecutive term of Prime Minister Modi is going to take forward the agenda of the previous two terms?
Well, thank you, Mark. We saw the Prime Minister hold forth on what are the objectives of this third term and how he is carrying forward some of the main policies that were started in Modi's first term and as well as continued further in the Modi second term. And among the things that he mentioned was concerted efforts to see that there is all-round development which is focused on the weakest and the poorest. And the second thing is to see that the country's economic growth, moves forward in a very big way. And the third is he spoke about the need to fight corruption also, which is a very important agenda with the Prime Minister right from the first term. And apart from that, the Prime Minister spoke of a new approach to handling issues, sorting out issues, and coming with big ideas to take India forward in a much faster way in terms of scale, in terms of speed, and also in terms of skill. So whatever he initiated, before the newly elected members of the NDA, as well as key coalition partners this time, the Telugu Party, as well as Janata Dal United, it was very clear there are no more confusions, there are no more uncertainties. This government of the Prime Minister in its third term has majority and there are no issues and there is no need for unnecessary fears. I think that's a big message that came across today when we saw the way the entire atmosphere was one of cordiality and one of deeper understanding. Because I believe in the last 2 days, there has been extensive discussions on what is the way forward, what are the key areas the government would push on, and particularly the Prime Minister's plan, what is called the Viksit Bharat plan, how it will move forward with the cooperation with allies. We heard the Chandrababu Naidu, the Telugu Desam leader. We also heard Nitish Kumar and other leaders who expressed complete support for the Prime Minister and also for his government in taking the country forward. Mark.
Yes, indeed. Now, as you said, all the NDA partners, they spoke, in fact, of the progress during the last 10 years, the transformation that's taken place, and they endorsed Prime Minister Modi. But the entire parliamentary committee, also expressed their support. In a parliamentary democracy, since we are looking at the international audience, this is the way it's done, isn't it? How clearly does this express India's democratic traditions?
Mark, under our parliamentary system of government, a leader who commands the majority support in the lower house of parliament, that is the Lok Sabha, is invited by the president to form the government. And in this case, where there was no clear majority, rather, since BJP did not have a majority of its own, it was essential that the support, the letter of support, the letter expressing support for the Prime Minister to head the next government was provided by the coalition partners, particularly the Telugu Desam Party and Janata Dal United, which formed the biggest chunk, expressing full support for the Prime Minister. So at the NDA parliamentary party meeting today, the idea was to send out that message that more than the required number of members of parliament are with the Prime Minister and they have chosen him as their leader. So that, and with that letter of support, Prime Minister drove to Rashtrapati Bhavan, had his audience with President Draupadi Murmu and presented the proof of support from all the supporting parties and members of parliament. And accordingly, President Draupadi Murmu issued the letter of appointment, which the Prime Minister showed to the media, as we can see right now in the screen. And that set in the process for the inauguration of the Modi government for the third time on June 9th. This is a process that has been followed where the leader who commands the majority support in the Lok Sabha is invited to form the government.
Yes, Mr. Iyer, also, the stock markets have reached their peaks once again. The this can only go north from here. But, how do you view this also as an endorsement of economic policy? You did speak of Viksit Bharat. You spoke about, actually, it's the Prime Minister's vision for 2047 as well. But, this is a coalition government, and there have been talks also about challenges in government formation and ministries, births and things like that. How smoothly do you think that all this is going to take place over first the government formation and then the smooth running of the government?
Mark, we can safely assume that a lot of preliminary round of discussions have already taken place between the leaders of the BJP and all the supporting parties. That is why you saw a kind of comfort zone, or rather a comfort among the leaders today, because a lot of ground has already been covered in principle as to what will be the composition of the government, which party will get what kind of representation. These things have been already covered. And I believe what is now more, the next round of discussion is about to be the specifics. The supporting parties will nominate the persons whom they would wish to be included in the Union Council of Ministers, and they leave it to the Prime Minister's prerogative to recommend these names to the President for their appointment as ministers. This is the process we have seen in all coalition government. The same thing will happen here. And also, there are other individual supporting parties with whom there were lengthy discussions today at JP Nadda's residence, who is the BJP president, where a lot of support, which is coming forward to see who can be given what representation, because this is going to be broadly a representative government of the parties that is supporting Prime Minister Modi. And as far as the policies and program, that will be the driving force, which is the same old mantra which has taken this government through the 10 years, which is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas and Sabka Prayas. This is what I was told has been conveyed to the allies. This is the Prime Minister's Mool Mantra, and this is what is going to be further reinforced, further implemented on the ground with greater effort, with greater energy and for greater result. This is the broad thing, and where I can see leaders like Chandrababu Naidu, who today very specifically mentioned that this is the moment where we need a leadership like that of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This is the time we need a government that can, take things forward, and a lot of things are waiting to happen. And Nitish Kumar, in his own typical style, he said he wanted things to move such a fast forward. He said, I think the government should be in right from today, which means no more time should be wasted or spared.
Yes, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Shekhar Iyer, senior journalist, political affairs commentator. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Now, India's central bank, the Reserve Bank of India, it's kept the interest rate unchanged at 6.5%. And this is for the 8th time in a row. The repo rate is the interest rate at which the Reserve Bank of India loans money to commercial banks. The governor said that India's central bank is committed to aligning inflation to 4% on a durable basis. Let's listen.
Detailed assessment of the evolving macroeconomic and financial developments and the outlook, the MPC decided by a 4:2 majority to keep the policy repo rate unchanged at 6.5%. Consequently, the standing deposit facility, that is SDF, rate remains at 6.25%, and the marginal standing facility, that is MSF rate, and the bank rate at 6.75%. Assuming a normal monsoon, CPI inflation for 2024-25 is projected at 4.5%, with Q1 at 4.9%, Q2 at 3.8%, Q3 at 4.6%, and Q4 at 4.5%.
The Vice President of the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Sanjaya Mariwala, spoke to DD India about the RBI's monetary policy announcement, and he said it's beneficial for Indian industry.
We are moving in the right direction. The investments are up. Private sector investment is also inching up again. I think that will increase capacities and ability to grow and expand our companies and industry. I think in manufacturing is receiving a focus. The tax collections are good. The dividends that RBI has declared are also excellent. This gives enough money to the government to spend on infrastructure and other industries of essential nature, and this will give the private sector also a boost to put in more capital and capex in the ground, which means that GDP growth rate will continue, and I think the next year could only be better.
Following the RBI's decision on interest rates, let's listen to other reactions from industry experts.
In the recent Monetary Policy Committee meeting, RBI has kept the lending rates at 6.5%, the benchmark rate at 6.5%. Although this is not a good news for current home loan owners, as this will not give any relief to their current EMIs. But given the current levels of inflation in the country, we believe that this was much needed. We hope that in future meetings and in due course, this benchmark rates will be reduced so that people can buy more home loans and eventually can fulfill their dream of owning a home.
Today's monetary policy outcome is largely on expected lines, with the MPC panel maintaining a status quo on both policy rates as well as the policy stance. What did stood out was the governor's statement wherein he explicitly mentioned on follow the Fed. He said that our domestic policy remains more determined by the domestic growth inflation scenario and the overall domestic macro factors. Overall, we think that going forward, we would be seeing a rate cut come through possibly by the fourth quarter of FY25, but we may see the policy getting more accommodative by end of 2024 calendar year.
India's stock markets have gained for a third consecutive session this week, and on Friday the BSE Sensex and the Nifty 50 they ended at fresh closing highs after the Reserve Bank of India maintained a status quo on the repo rates and the policy stance while revising the GDP estimates for FY25 upwards. The Sensex hit a fresh lifetime high of 76,795.31 during the session before ending at 1,619 points higher at 76,693.36, with all components in the green. Now the Nifty 50 also closed 469 points higher at 23,290.15. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. The 18th edition of the Mumbai International Film Festival to be held from the 15th of June to the 21st of June in Mumbai. Tens of thousands of aviation enthusiasts gather in Berlin for Europe's biggest air show. And Berlin puts final touches also on its Olympic Stadium ahead of Euro 2024.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, political parties in South Africa remain divided over the African National Congress's plans to form a new government. This follows a decision by the President Cyril Ramaphosa to unite with a diverse range of opposition parties spanning from the extreme right to the radical left. The different parties appear reluctant to ally over divergent political views. DD India's Michael Belecke reports.
The new parliament meets in 10 days to elect a new president as the political landscape remains fluid. The ANC is exploring potential coalitions with several parties, including the Democratic Alliance and the Economic Freedom Fighters. Nevertheless, there are notable obstacles. The Democratic Alliance has shown reluctance in collaborating with the ANC and also the far-left MK party under the leadership of President Jacob Zuma because they have such different policies. On the other hand, the EFF radical policies such as nationalizing banks and seizing land without compensation make them a contentious choice for coalition partners. Other politicians want President Ramaphosa to resign, a view that complicates negotiations, especially with the MK party, which has significant reservations about Ramaphosa's leadership. The ANC is aiming to build a coalition that can govern effectively and address the country's pressing issues of corruption, unemployment and crime. Michael Belecke in Kampala, reporting for DD India.
Tens of thousands of aviation enthusiasts are gathering in Berlin for one of Europe's biggest air shows. The biannual ILA event brings together leaders from commercial aviation, aircraft manufacturing and defense, showcasing new technologies in aviation, discussing trends in passenger experience and treating crowds to military flyovers from European air forces. The 18th edition of the Mumbai International Film Festival will be held from the 15th of June to the 21st of June in Mumbai. This year, the festival received a record submission of more than 1,000 films for competition section from 38 countries and 65 languages. Also, for the very first time, the Mumbai International Film Festival received corporate collaborations from more than 20 brands. Mumbai International Film Festival is the oldest and the largest film festival for non-feature films in South Asia.
Mumbai International Film Festival has a huge history. It started in 1990. So we have had 17 versions of Mumbai International Film Festival, and as I understand, there are actually a large number of actors in our country, large number of performers, large number of cine producers, cine directors, and those associated with filmmaking who have actually kind of started their career with Mumbai International Film Festival. So it's a great opportunity, and this is coming at the in the backdrop of our recent performance at the Cannes Film Festival, where all of you are aware an unprecedented success was achieved by our filmmakers.
The Global Rice Summit commenced on Friday in the southern Indian city of Hyderabad. The two-day event is deliberating on new technologies in paddy production, marketing facilities, new variants of paddy, among other issues. Over 250 delegates, including scientists, millers, progressive farmers and officials, are taking part in the summit. The Ministry of Information and Broadcasting in India and the Ministry of Ayush too in India have initiated the preparation for organization of the International Day of Yoga 2024. The media units of the INB Ministry are preparing to organize a variety of programs and activities to create awareness about the common yoga protocol, along with awareness about the benefits of practicing yoga. And in the run-up to International Day of Yoga, the Consul General of India at Hambantota has made an effort to popularize yoga, which includes yoga asanas being performed at the iconic Gal Fort, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The video shared on the social media platform X shows an Armenian national, Liliana Bagharian, who is a family member of an Indian diplomat. She is performing various yoga asanas. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time for the sports news now. And the top-ranked Iga Swiatek will take on, in fact, will look to continue her dominance at Roland Garros when she faces the 15th-ranked Jasmine Paolini in the 2024 French Open Women's Singles Final on Saturday. Swiatek, who first held the top ranking in April of 2022, is looking to win her 4th French Open and the 3rd in a row. She's also closing in on her 5th Grand Slam title, having won the US Open in 2022. The 28-year-old Paolini is in uncharted territory, having never advanced past the 4th round of a Grand Slam event. This will be the 3rd time that Iga Swiatek and Jasmine Paolini are playing against each other. Berlin Olympic Stadium received its final touches on Friday ahead of the Euro 2024 starting in Germany next week. The first game at the Olympiastadion, as the Germans call it, will take place on June 15 when Spain is going to be playing against Croatia in Group B. Berlin boasts the largest of 10 German stadiums, which will be used during the month-long soccer tournament, which kicks off in Munich on June 14. Berlin's Olympic Stadium will have a capacity of 71,000 during the Euro 2024, according to UEFA, some 3,000 less than during other soccer games. The 7th of June is observed as World Food Safety Day. World Food Safety Day, it was established by the United Nations to emphasize on the importance of food safety for human health and the environment. This year's theme is Prepare for the Unexpected. Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, the Food Safety and Standards Authority, held a week-long campaign. It's an awareness campaign to educate dairy farmers as well and workers on the dangers of using oxytocin injections in dairies. The campaign highlighted the health risks associated with the misuse of oxytocin to boost milk production in cows and buffaloes. Additionally, a special cleaning drive was also conducted to ensure hygiene in New Delhi dairies. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available for both Android and iOS platforms. Scan that QR code on your screen and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn, and from all of us here in Delhi, thank you very much for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.